Welcome to the 3-month plan. I've been sitting here chatting with you and you can't hear me. So if you can hear me now, give me a thumbs up in the Q&A. Just let me know you can hear me okay. So welcome to the 3-month plan. Oh, thank you guys. Thank you so much. It looks like you guys can hear me. Carolyn, thank you so much for raising your hand and letting me know. Okay, so welcome to the 3-month plan. I'm Angela Kelly Robeck. I'm a former teacher, principal, district administrator who has turned into a certified life and leadership coach for school leaders. I'm so honored to be here with you today. Thank you for your time. I promise not to waste 1 minute of it. I'm going to give you all the goods. All of you have received a copy of the 3-month plan workshop template, and we're going to go through it in the workshop today. So while people are jumping in, I want to talk about how this came to be. So really the 3-month plan came up from my work with school leaders. They were feeling like trying to plan out a full year for a vision or a mission was just too big. It was too overwhelming, especially in my work with brand new school leaders. So they felt like this was too much. They couldn't wrap their heads around a full year plan or a 3-year plan. You know, some people will ask you in your interview, what's your 3-year plan or what's your 5-year plan? And you're like, I don't know what my plan for next month is, right? So we decided, let's just break down our planning, the process for planning into bite-sized, chewable pieces that are very tangible, right? So what happens in school leadership, particularly when you're brand new or it's your first 1 to 5 years, I would say, everything feels like a priority. And when everything's a priority, nothing is a priority, as you know. And we have difficulty deciding where to focus. So we play the whack-a-mole, right? We focus over here, and then we run over here, and then we run over here, and we're constantly trying to solve everything at once because everything feels like a priority. And because we don't have what I call a primary focus, a lens in which we use to make decisions about how we're going to spend our time and our effort and our energy and our attention, okay? So what was happening, I was watching school leaders, and I totally did this myself, was that I would go into the overwhelm cycle. I would just get stuck in overwhelm, and it created a lockdown in our mind. So I was watching my principals go through this. And when our mind locks down, our actions lock down, and then we get behind in our work. What we feel is behind because we get stuck in overwhelm. We either shut down and then we underwork, or we try to overwork and we exhaust ourselves, right? And we get stuck in that overwhelm cycle. So that's how the 3-month plan was really brought into existence. So I just want to tell you, this training is for you. If you're, number one, new to the position and you have no idea what you're doing, we've got you covered. We're going to walk you through that, even if it's your first year. And I'm going to help you understand how you actually can make a 3-month plan, even when you're brand new and it's your first time. Okay. If you're a principal who wants to establish a true priority, a primary focus, if you're tired of feeling like everything is a priority, there's 15 initiatives on the books, and you're trying to figure out which one comes first and how you're going to organize your time, you're in the right place, because we're going to talk about how everything cannot be equally important and what you do in order to create a true priority. Everybody that I work with, including myself, we all want to be in control of how we spend our time and our energy. The freedom and the empowerment of feeling like you have agency over your career, your professional career, life outside of that career, personally, how you spend your time, where your attention goes, where your energy goes, and your focus. You want the day to feel like you are in charge of it, not feel like the day is happening to you. So we're going to talk about that. And then finally, if you want to stop feeling like you're always behind. If there's anything I hear school leaders say, it's I'm behind, I feel so behind, I can't keep up. And their reaction to that is overworking. And that's how burnout happens. That's the fuel of burnout, right? Is to believe that we're behind, and the response is to overwork. or the response is to like spin out, just kind of spin out and overwhelm and not get things done or procrastinate. And then we do have to hustle to try and meet deadlines. We want to troubleshoot all of that in advance. Okay. So I want you to know I'm not talking at you. I'm talking with you because I have personally been in your shoes. I was a school principal for 6 years before I moved up to the district level. I was the RTI coordinator in a district for the year before I was working with school leaders in that RTI position. And I realized as I was talking with all of the principals, they all felt the way I did, but we were working in such isolation and nobody wanted to be honest about how they actually felt because we were all trying to pretend we knew what was going on and that we were faking it till we made it. And deep down inside, everybody was struggling emotionally, mentally. They were overworking. They felt like they were spinning out, not getting the results they wanted. So I have been there. I worked in an area here in the Bay Area that was very competitive, very high stakes, really high intense parents, because there are CEOs of very, very famous companies who came in and wanted us to do it perfectly and be working around the clock and be available 24/7. So I have used this process personally to help school leaders like myself and my colleagues, and now all of you, to help you stay focused, to create some clarity, which when you have clarity, you have calmness and you can trust the process. You can trust yourself. You can trust the people you work with because you're feeling prepared. It just calms down the nervous system so that you're not spending, this is for me, I could not sleep at night. I would fall asleep from exhaustion, but I would wake up and be up for hours thinking and perseverating about what did I miss? What haven't I planned? What could happen with this parent? What communication needs to go out? How can I make this easier? I was always spinning on solutions. I've helped dozens and dozens and dozens. I've been doing this for the last 5 years. Dozens of principals and clients, teaching them this process, and it works every single time. So here's what you're going to walk away with. We're going to talk about why taking time to plan and slowing yourself down enough and putting planning time on the calendar is going to be the very best use of your time. It's how you feel better as a school leader, because when you plan, then you feel calm knowing I have a plan and I've thought out some of these obstacles ahead of time and I've anticipated some things. I've mapped out these details. I don't have to keep all of it up in my head. We're going to get all the to-dos from your brain down onto paper, and from paper to prioritization and onto that calendar. And I'm going to show you a process for that. It's not rocket science, but I'm going to show you where the obstacles lie. The pitfall planning is what I call it. And the real challenges that come up when you try to implement this on the daily and consistently throughout the course of a school year. Okay. So what you're going to walk away with is how to feel better, how to become more valuable as a leader. I think if there's any gift I could give you, it is maximizing your value as a school leader. And what I mean by that is when you are a principal who's clear and organized and calm, and you trusting yourself and your decisions and the process, you're able to communicate effectively with your constituents, you are going to become more valuable to your district. And when you become more valuable to your district, they want to retain you. And the way that they'll retain you is by paying you more money. And if there's anything I can do for you, it's to increase your value so that you can increase your pocketbook, right? That sounds like it's disconnected, but I'm going to show you how it's very, very connected. So you will have a very clear process for creating your 3-month plan. I'm going to talk about some things I want you to consider in the 3-month plan. You have all of it here. I'm sure for those of you who are on right now, hopefully you've printed it out or you've looked at it at least. Whoa, what's happening? Cancel. You have looked at it, and it's really laid out very simply. So, but there is a catch, and I'm going to cover that in this workshop today. We're going to talk about the pitfalls to avoid and how to plan for them. Okay. All right. So I want to highlight why this plan is different than perhaps other planning processes or approaches that you've used in the past. Here is why it's different. And I love this. I use this myself in my business, and it just works so well because it's different because it's very simple. And here's why. We are not going to attempt to fit everything in. The goal is not to be hyper productive and be sloppy and just do a bunch of things a mile wide and an inch deep. We're not going to do it all. We're not attempting to that. We know that doesn't work. You know how? We've tried it. We've been approaching school leadership like that for as long as I can remember. My principals used to do that. I did that. It doesn't work. So we're going to reject overwhelm as an option. Okay? Whenever your brain offers you the thought, I'm overwhelmed, this is overwhelming, we're going to say no, because we have a 3-month plan. This isn't overwhelming. We're going to do what's on the plan, which means we're not going to take everything on at once. My coach likes to say, we're going to set some things on the nightstand. We're going to let them just, I say the sidelines, put it on the sidelines. It's not going anywhere. You can pick it up later and you can put it in another 3-month plan. But when you have a primary focus, you're not going to be trying to do everything at once. Another thing that's different about this plan is it's not just a matter of like listing out your to-dos and calendaring them. It's about thinking ahead of time about the challenges and the issues that you're going to face. Planning solutions to that ahead of time so that when they come up, they're not even problems. If you have a solution when a problem arises, then it's not a problem, right? So we're going to think and anticipate and come up with some potential solutions ahead of time, which helps you make decisions much more swiftly and clearly. If there's another gift I could give a school leader, it's the ability to trust your decisions, to trust that you have the knowledge and the skill set to make decisions on your own. You don't need other people's approval. Now, you might talk to stakeholders, and I know there's a process and there's different types of decision-making protocols that you can go through, but you have to trust yourself that you as a school leader have the authority and the permission and the knowledge and skills to make decisions swiftly. The more swiftly that you make decisions as a school leader, the more things that get done. A lot of times the reason things stall or the reason we don't get to accomplish goals that we set for ourselves is because we lag, we procrastinate making decisions because sometimes it feels uncomfortable to make them. When we learn this process, it's going to get very clear and simple and easy to make decisions, right? This is also different because the commitment is to the priority. The commitment is not to everything. The commitment is to the primary focus and the one thing that you have set out for the next 90 days. Here's the beautiful thing. Your priority can change in the next set of 90 days. It's okay. But for 90 days, we're going to do one thing and do it really well until we get to that goal. If we don't meet it in 90 days, we can extend that into the next set of 90 days. But if you accomplish it sooner, let's just start another 90-day block, right? There's nothing set in stone. I just think 90 days is kind of that sweet spot where it gives you 3 months ahead of your staff and your students and your community. You're always thinking and leading them because you're 3 months ahead. It's far enough ahead that you're in the lead, but it's not so far ahead that it feels daunting and overwhelming, okay? Finally, the meter of success is different because we're not going to measure how many goals you accomplished, how many to-dos you checked off your list, or how productive you are. That's not how we're going to measure your success. We're going to measure how you feel, right? Do you feel calm? Do you feel prepared? Do you feel planned? And if so, why? What are the thoughts creating those emotions? And we're also going to look at that tangible piece. How often are you not overworking? How many times are you overworking versus not? What's going on there and why? What's driving the overwork or the overwhelm? And why are we responding that way? And what are we going to do? So the meter of success is how you feel as a school leader. And that's why this is different, because your success is dependent on how you feel. If you feel successful, that's your success. That's an individual thing. We don't have one blanket across, one line for everybody to cross that says you're successful and you're not. It depends on how you feel. So that's what we're talking about. So again, for those of you that are jumping in that are new, I'm Angela Kelly Robeck. I'm a certified life coach for school leaders and a former school teacher, administrator, instructional coach, all of the things. So what I do now is I just help site and district leaders navigate the demands of the job by focusing on your mental and emotional wellness, by time management, and really maximizing your resources, your brain, your time, your financial resources, your physical resources that you have available to you at school, but most of all, your human resources, and leveraging your resources to maximize your impact and influence as a school leader. Okay. So a little bit of housekeeping. The training part's going to last around 45 to 60 minutes. Save your questions for the end. You can pop them in the Q&A and I will go through and answer them as we need to. Let me put that up. Okay, nothing yet. Okay, perfect. So jot your questions down, get cozy, right? Set an intention right now for the next 45 minutes. You're going to be here, present, and I want you to make an intention and a decision about one action you're going to take at the end of this webinar, okay? So for those of you who are interested in learning more about my coaching program and the service that I offer, I'll talk about that at the end. Okay. So if you want to stay on and learn more about that, perfect. I will tell you everything at the end and I will be sure to answer all your questions at the end. Okay. Let me get through this. And for those of you interested, we'll talk about it then. Okay. So let's just start with what you want. And what you want is you want to feel prepared. When you think about yourself and how you want to feel when you go into work in the morning, when you wake up and you're like, it's Monday, you want to feel prepared, right? That feels so much better than freaking out about what you're doing today and what's going on this week and not really sure and feeling in this constant stress mode of what could happen this week and what is this person going to, how is this person going to react and what's this meeting about? You want to feel calm and prepared. That's what confidence is, right? When you're calm and prepared, you feel confident that you can handle anything that comes your way and everything that comes your way. And that's one of the mindset skills I teach my empowered principals is you can handle anything that comes your way. So what you want is you want to feel prepared. You want to know what's coming up. You want your actions mirrored by what you value as a leader. So what I mean by that is the actions that you spend your day doing, the actual physical actions you take, you want those to mirror your values, your leadership values. You want to feel aligned. I call that aligned leadership. When the actions and decisions that you're making as a school leader, they're aligned to your values, what you want to be spending your time on and what you think is the most valuable use of your time. You want those things to be in alignment, okay? You also want to have clear priorities and the ability to constrain. And what constrain just means is saying no to putting more on your plate until you've accomplished the priority, okay? And that's what happens is we pile up all the priorities and they all get blended into one, and then we can't separate what really is a priority and what's not, okay? You want time to be able to think through obstacles and problem solve ahead of time. We often feel like we're too busy to do that. I'm going to sell you hard on why this is the best use of your time so that when you walk away, your brain's like, I want to spend my time this way. And I have been working with my clients one-on-one on their 3-month plan. And I cannot tell you how productive they've been. They're calm, they're centered, they're clear. There's no drama in their mind. They just know what they're going to do and they get up and do it. They've thought through the plan. So far, so good. We've had some smooth sailing and it's been remarkable how much calmer people are starting their year. I have some people who are already in their school year, beginning of the school year, believe it or not, and some who are just getting ramped up back to go back in August. So what you'll walk away with is a plan that's really focused and efficient and a plan that takes the realities of the job into play. Okay. I know this job. I know it well. And I'm not here to sell you and to BS you and tell you like this plan's going to work out perfectly and there's never going to be a hiccup. No, this plan is going to take into account the realities of this job. We take that into consideration because we're going to put interruptions and wipeout days on the calendar so that when you do have something big that comes up, you will have already anticipated. Okay. Let me share with you a little bit about what I call the getting behind cycle. This is similar to the overwhelm cycle, but it's specific to the topic at hand here. So we start out we jump into the job and there's multiple needs, like right off the bat, day one, teachers are coming at you with needs, students have needs, parents have needs, the district office has needs, the county, the state, however you are governed. And I know each county, state is different, each district is different, but there are multiple needs coming at the site leader all at once, right? And everything feels like a priority. So it feels very confusing and overwhelming to understand it's like, I don't know how to triage this, right? Who do I address first? What we end up doing is we address our boss first because we don't want to upset them. So we take care of them first. Teachers are coming at us, parents are coming at us. Then we get into this quandary of like, who do I help first? Because you believe that all of it should be handled all at once. So we play whack-a-mole. We do this and then we go over here and then we go over here and we feel very confused and very dazed and very busy. And we play whack-a-mole, and that leads to overwhelm. That gets us in the overwhelm cycle where we're overworking in a response to the overwhelm until we exhaust ourselves and we get so exhausted we have to take time off, or we get sick. Like physically we start to break down, mentally we break down, emotionally we break down, and then we underwork in some sense, whether we're checked out mentally or emotionally, or we have to take time off of work, or we just like, start missing deadlines. And then what happens because of that is we get behind. We actually get behind because we just can't keep all the balls in the air. We feel underprepared. And then there ends up being more needs. So that's the cycle that we can get into when we believe that being behind is a thing. Okay. So we know intellectually that whack-a-mole and everything being a priority doesn't work. How do we know? We've tried that approach year after year after year, expecting a different result. Every year we're like, we're going to be more focused this year, right? I'm going to plan, I'm going to be calm, I'm not going to overwork. We start with good intentions, but as more demands come in and we don't have a filter for how to prioritize them, we don't think we can say no. We don't think we have time to slow down and plan. Okay. We also don't believe we can manage or reduce interruptions. So we have thoughts about interruptions. The thought is we have to respond to them. We think we can say no. There are things that are emergencies, but most of them are actually interruptions based on what other people perceive as emergencies for themselves. So your teachers are going to come to you and be in a panic. I have an emergency, and my solution to my emergency so that I can calm down is for you to solve my problem, right? And then you, being the ever-loving and servant leader that you are, you stop what you're doing to go say yes to this person. But what we don't see, the result of that is the thing you were working on, which always goes out to somebody else. Now that's not getting your attention. This gets your attention. So this person's immediate need gets solved. You try to go back to this. Now this is delayed. And this happens over and over again, right? And we end up staying in reaction mode. And when we do that, this work that you had in front of you starts to get overlooked or time crunched. And now you have to get it out and it gets a little bit sloppy or things get missed. And then you get into this reaction mode instead of being intentional about your actions as a leader and staying focused on the primary focus, which is your why for that 90 days, which results in last minute hustling, stress, overworking. And you've probably heard of the quadrant, the 4 quadrants where there's important, urgent, important, not important, urgent, not important, not urgent, right? We end up getting into that land of important and not and urgent, and we don't, or not important and urgent. We focus on the urgency versus the importance, and the non-urgent important tasks don't get done. And we get stuck, right? We get just caught in this cycle. Ultimately, if we peel back the layers, what this ends up creating is that we are not in control of our time. We feel like we're not in control of our time, that the job is happening to us, our time, our energy, our focus, our attention, where we want to be spending our time. It just feels like it's splattered all over the place. And we end up feeling chronically behind. We can't seem to get ahead of the game, right? And that ends up, if we take it a layer yet further, we don't end up making the impact we want. We don't create results. We don't make the impact. We just kind of spin and flatline and stagnate in terms of our goals. We start to question our vision. It gets really cloudy. We're like, what are we doing? What's my purpose? Why am I here? This is why 1 in 3 leaders walk away from the position within 3 years, and 50% walk away within 5 years. So the reality of the struggle is real here. And we want to understand the cycle that we get in and be able to recognize when we're in it so that we can pull ourselves out. Okay. Now, let's talk about why it's so hard to change. When we intellectually know something, and even if we've created awareness around that overwhelm cycle and that getting behind cycle and the myth of behind, we still buy into it, right? Even though we're aware. Why does this happen? Here's why. It's really hard to change our mindset when we have other people's demands constantly in our face, because those urgencies become our own. And the truth of that is it's really hard for us to say no, or to say, can you schedule for later? Or can you solve that on your own or with somebody else? It's very uncomfortable or awkward for us to be able to redirect somebody, or to have to say, no, I'm in the middle of something important right now. I can't help you in this minute. And I know that sounds very simple. Some of us don't have a hard time with that, but I'm going to say the majority of us, we're here to serve. We're here to help our teachers and to help students or families, or even, district officials who come to us and they have needs that they need us to help them with. Saying no is not comfortable. We've been conditioned that no is not okay. So we have to look into that and investigate, what does that mean for us? Why are we uncomfortable? Is there times where we're not, and really explore that? Another reason is that we haven't conditioned ourselves, or we haven't been taught to value planning time. And I call it power thinking time, where you're really problem solving. You're thinking like, what are all the problems? What are the solutions? And giving yourself like a luxurious amount of time and space to plan, and to value planning time equally as much as we do value helping other people. So we don't value planning as much as we value helping others. But the problem with that is we get just caught up in just helping other people all day long, and then we don't get to our own work, and then we're frustrated and we're resentful that we spent all day off task not getting our stuff done. So now we have to overwork in response to the work that we needed to get done, right? It's also really hard to honor our calendars, because we can put and I know you guys do this. The problem is not like creating a to-do list and putting it on the calendar. The problem is managing that calendar in a way that gives us time and space for the realities of the job, the interruptions, the unexpected, things that come up. But we don't really honor time for ourselves. We don't honor self-care and balance. We don't honor those things because the urgency tends to override. We don't take time to plan because we feel like we're too busy, or to even think about problems and solutions, or to prepare ourselves. It's a real challenge to do that, because we've been conditioned to be that action is the solution. And I want to offer that thinking and planning is the solution. Okay. Here are some thoughts. These are just examples, but these are some thoughts that make it feel hard. I can't slow down to plan. Other things are more pressing or important. I don't know what I can expect 3 months from now. Why would I even bother? Things are coming up anyway. It's going to throw my plan off. What's the point? I can't possibly plan that far ahead. I know some of my clients were like, 3 months? I can't even plan for the week. I showed them how to calm their brain down enough to see how easy it actually is. And I had another client say, like, I can barely get done today's work, let alone think 3 months in advance. So these are quotes that I took from my actual clients that work with me and what their initial reaction was to the planning process. But here's the truth. You actually do have an idea of what's coming. Even if you're brand new, you know the rhythm of a school year. You know that you have time. You know that there is a rhythm and ebb and a flow to the day. So this use of your time is way more valuable than some of the things you're spending your time on right now. That's the truth. We don't like to hear that because we don't want to be told we're doing it wrong. It's not that you're doing it wrong. It's just that you might find a more valuable way to spend your time to create time to do the other things you want to get done. Planning now makes your future so much easier. So being willing to do the tedious work of planning now is what makes your life easier in the future. And when you plan out the future now, your experience of that future is going to be much more present, more calm, and you're going to feel so much more prepared. So we have to work with our brain on why it's important to sit down and do this work. Okay. That's kind of the first obstacle we have to overcome is our brain's kind of like a toddler. It's not going to want to sit down. It's not going to want to do boring, tedious work. It's not going to want to plan. It just wants to go and do. That's an approach you can take. And if that approach works for you and you feel great about it and you're not stressed or overworking, then you're good to go. But for most of the people I work with, most of the school leaders I know, that's not the case. So if your brain needs a little more information on the value, here's what happens. You stay ahead 3 months. You stay ahead of your people. You know what to expect ahead of time. You've created the plan ahead of time because this is really about setting the intention. You don't have to be perfect. This is something I learned myself. This plan doesn't have to be executed perfectly to work. This plan is about being human and having imperfections and getting off track and missing some things and failing. None of that matters as much as setting the intention of I'm going to do my best to anticipate the next 3 months and to plan them and prepare for them in order for me to feel more relaxed, confident, and calm as a school leader. Okay. The other thing I want you to consider is that I think of planning the next 3 months of our work the same as planning out a vacation, right? When you plan your vacation way in advance and you get your airplane tickets in advance and your hotel and you go down and you get to the nitty gritty of like, how are we going to spend our time and how do we want to spend it? Oh, I want to try these restaurants or I want to try these activities and experiences. The sooner you do that, the cheaper it costs and the more likely you're going to be able to land those reservations and get the activities you want. If you wait till the last minute, things cost more, you have less choice, you have less options. The places you really want to go to are already booked up, so you got to go somewhere else, or the cost of your hotel or Airbnb or resort, whatever, goes way up. So the same is true in school. When you plan ahead, the events that you host and the meetings that you hold, everything costs less, whether it's financial cost less or time cost when it's planned in advance because you've thought about everything ahead of time. So you're not scrambling last minute, right? You get to visualize the day and the week and the month going smoothly because when you see it in front of you, you can envision how this conversation is going to go or how this meeting is going to go or how this day is going to go or how your end of month reflection is going to go. So you get to decide what you're going to work on, what other people are going to work on in terms of delegation by mapping out this schedule ahead of time. You're going to know exactly how you're spending your time, which helps you feel confident, prepared. This is really what this is about. We're creating a different experience for school leadership. Everybody I know has been so fatigued over the last few years. We want to start bringing back our energy, enthusiasm, excitement by not overworking, not overscheduling, not overexerting, and not expecting ourselves to be perfect at everything and doing everything all at once. And the results this creates is work-life balance. Wouldn't that be lovely? Clear and concise communication, consistent actions of yourself and others. There's a clear process and approach that you use, and then you build in time to make adjustments. So you can't lose, right? And here's the thing. I think the best part of this is you just become more valuable as a school leader. And I mentioned this at the beginning, but truly think about this. When your time is effectively managed, priorities and deadlines are met, problems are anticipated and solved ahead of time, decisions are made ahead of time, so time is not wasted spinning out on indecision. Communication is planned and sent out in time, which means everybody else is informed of what they need to do, so they're more prepared because you're more prepared. You get more done in less time, and you avoid last-minute problems and expenses. That is more valuable leadership, okay? And I want you to stop overworking, overexerting, and overscheduling. That is the goal of this plan. So let me share with you the 5 steps. The steps aren't hard to execute, but I will talk with you about what is hard, okay? Step 1 is make a list. You're gonna map out everything, and you guys can follow along in here because it's laid out step by step, word by word. You're gonna make the list. You're gonna put down everything. And this actually takes longer than you think because you have to think about 3 months, right? You have to get your calendar out and say, like, what's going on in the next 3 months? Make the list. And these are things you want to consider, right? Deadlines in the next 3 months, events that you have to plan or prepare or attend. You want to think about meetings and appointments, personal and professional. Accomplishments. Now this one you're going to just do one, right? Accomplish one thing. That's your primary focus. But you also, this is one thing I require of my clients, is that you put in fun on your calendar. You prioritize that first. You have to have something fun to look forward to every single week. You have to put in time for travel. A lot of times we schedule ourselves 8 to 9, 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12, and we don't even consider the time it takes to travel between meetings, whether we're on different campuses, whether you have to drive or even if you're walking, bio breaks, all of those things. So we need to be considerate of that. So the step 1 is to make the list. Step 2 is you're going to prioritize it based on your leadership values, what you think is the one next best step, okay? You just create a theory. There's no one right answer. You create a theory that becomes your primary focus. For the next 90 days, here's what I think is the next best step that my school needs, that we need to focus on, okay? That becomes a priority. Then you filter all your decisions based on that priority. You start mapping out the details of each one of these things, okay? Step 3 is where it gets very tedious. Your brain does not want to go through the tediousness, that's a word, the busyness, the tediness. I don't think you can't say it right now. Whatever, you get what I'm saying. It's tedious and your brain doesn't like it. It's boring. Nobody wants to do it. This is where you've got to manage your mind, because the devil is in the details here, right? You have to map out those details. The more detailed you get, the more problems you solve faster, the more things you realize need to be done in order to be in place. Then when you do that, only then can you make decisions and delegate. What am I going to work on? What are you going to work on? And then you're going to calendar and honor those. Now, I mentioned all the things you want to consider. You want to consider deadlines, meetings and appointments, events, your one goal, fun, travel, and personal. Now, what I really want to talk about here are the pitfalls, okay? You have all the information you need in this. I'm not even going to go over that because you have it. That's not the problem. What I want to talk about is the pitfalls, right? I'm going to talk about pitfall planning and how to overcome that. Number one is what I just talked about. Mapping out the details is going to feel tedious. Do not skip this step, even though you don't feel like doing it. I think one of the reasons that humans don't accomplish goals like exercising or weight loss, I try to think of something that's universal, right? A lot of people want to say they want to exercise 3 days a week, but they fail at it. Why? Because the moment you wake up and it says on the calendar, exercise from 6 to 7, your brain's like, oh, but I'm tired, or oh, I don't want to do it, or oh, I'm sore, or I just don't feel like it. That is where coaching kicks in, right? Where you have to coach your brain, like, remember, this is why we're exercising. It wakes us up, it energizes us, we get outside and get fresh air, we cardiovascular, like health benefits, mental, emotional, physical. You want to remind yourself of the benefits. And do I love my reasons for not working out? Right? Same thing happens with planning. Just because my brain's throwing a tantrum and it doesn't want to do the thing, is that the reason you want to be for not having your plan done? You have to make that decision, yes or no. So map out those details and coach yourself when it doesn't want to do it. Okay. And you can break this up. You don't have to do this all in one sitting. That would be a little bit exhausting. You can break this process up into a few different sessions, right? But mapping out those details is really key. Number two, not delegating. Not delegating, holding on to everything. I see this so often with new school leaders because they're afraid to delegate because they think it won't be done right, or they think they have to be the ones to do it, or they don't really know how to delegate. So they just do it themselves. They think it's just faster, easier if they do it themselves than if they take the time to delegate. Not delegating is going to be the death of your 3-month plan. There are 2 ways you gain time as a school leader: constraint, which is saying no to things that aren't the priority, and delegating, building up your team, your trust in your team, your empowerment of your team to have them take on tasks that they can do that you don't have to do. And you have to trust others will do a good enough job, even if it's B-, even if it's 80% of how you would do it. You want to coach yourself on how to accept that B- work as good enough. And here's the other thing, maybe they'll do it better. There are a lot of skilled, talented people out there on your teams, and they have a lot to offer. And sometimes we don't even know what their talents until we tap into them. Okay. Pitfall number 3, not being able to say not now. There are true emergencies, but most interruptions are not true emergencies. People are going to they're going to compel you to think that it's an emergency when really it's just an interruption, right? Be willing to say not now. That is a pitfall you have to anticipate. If you're a person who has a hard time saying not now, you need to go schedule time. You want to come up with a solution to that. How will I be able to say not now? You can say that in a lot of different ways. You can work with your secretary. Can you meet with my secretary? You can redirect them to other people, to your grade level reps. Like, have a plan, a process for how you can say not now in a way that honors what you have on your calendar. Now, in the event of a true emergency, we'll talk about that in a minute, but it's okay. You don't want to say not now to a true emergency, right? You want to be able to honor emergencies, have a wipeout day, and then regroup the next day. Okay. Number 4, the pitfall number 4 is scheduling back to back to back. This is a mistake that I made all of the time. And here's the problem with it. When you schedule yourself back to back with no time for movement or a break or travel time, what happens is you fill up your day, and your expectation is, I'm going to get to all of these things and I'm going to feel super accomplished and super done. And you think it's going to only take this 1 hour to get through this problem and the next hour. And it feels like it should be just that easy. But what happens is maybe you get to 3 of those things on your calendar because you had an interruption or an emergency or a full wipeout day. And then you're discouraged. And then you're going to tell yourself, but the plan doesn't work. It's not the plan that doesn't work. It's our ability to navigate and let the plan be flexible and breathable, like a live document that we're working with here. So what we're going to do is we're going to put time on the calendar for interruptions and emergencies and wipeout days so that we're not disappointed when every day we thought we were going to get 10 things done, but we only got 3. Okay. So that's really the gist of it. You guys have the template. You can ask questions, but I want to talk a little bit more about what we've walked through. So here's what we've done. I've talked about the problem. The problem is under planning. I want you to hear that. The problem is not all of the things coming at you. The problem is that we under plan for the overwhelm. We don't anticipate the overwhelm until we're in it, and then we don't know how to get out of it. So the problem truly is under planning and then not anticipating ahead of time. Okay. That leads us to, then we have another problem. We get overwhelmed, we overwork, we overexert, we overschedule, we burn out. Okay. The solution is the 3-month plan, biting your plan into 90-day chunks so that it feels doable, easy, and simple. Now the process we just went through, you're going to list everything out, prioritize based, you're just going to pick a theory, and for the next 90 days, let that be the priority, mapping out those details, and then deciding and delegating who's doing what, asking people permission before you delegate, right? I have a whole podcast on the art of delegation. I can put that, I'll put it out. If you join my newsletter, just, I can send you guys a link to join the newsletter, but I will send you some links to podcasts to help you like flush all of this out. I just don't have time to do all of it with you tonight, but delegation is a process, constraining is a process, and then calendaring and honoring and how to honor that calendar, even when you don't want to. Those are the things that make it hard, right? And then the results and then the benefits of these results. So we've talked a lot about the benefit of the results that this creates, but I really want to talk about how this adds value to you as a leader. So your brain is 100% bought in and sold on why this process works for you, for anybody, every single time. When you stay 3 months ahead as a leader, you're always leading. You're not running and chasing the people. If you ever had that teacher who's like, what about this and what about that? And they've thought ahead further than you, and you're like kind of embarrassed. You're like, oh, thanks for the reminder. When you plan 3 months ahead, you're the one who's ahead. You're the one who's actually leading. You're actually being a leader. And sometimes you're even ahead of your district, which is fabulous. So when you anticipate and are always 3 months ahead, you don't get caught off guard, hardly ever, right? Because you're the one who's leading. When you know what to expect before it happens, that equals less surprises, less emergencies, which means calmer days for you, right? Calmer days for you means better life, better experience as a school leader. When you've created a plan ahead of time, you actually save time. So what I'm doing is showing you like the result you're creating has an extended benefit, right? It's about setting the intention, making it work for you as a human, letting it be adjustable. When you anticipate those obstacles, you worry less, calming your central nervous system, which can take time away from you. You get better rest. You get peace of mind is what you get. And then when you've considered all those details, I don't like details, which is why I keep focusing on that. Like I'm a big picture person. I don't like to get into the nitty gritty, but when I do that, it saves me so much more time on the back end. Okay. You're not hustling as much last minute. You're more organized. You have a smoother leadership experience, and you work less because you're not having to spend time always in reactive mode. You're addressing unanticipated issues less often. So you're actually working less. Okay. And then I can go on and on about the benefits. This compounds, right? These benefits start to compound week after week, month after month, year after year. This is compounding the amount of joy and the quality of life and the quality of your leadership experience. Because you every time you go through this process, you get more planned, more focused, more accomplished. You get more done in less time. You fulfill your obligations without overworking. Your physical, mental, and emotional health gets balanced and in check. And then I just think you have a better quality of life. But the best part, again, I will reiterate this, is that you create a bigger legacy. I teach the life and leadership legacy, which talks about your impact, your influence, and the legacy you want to leave behind. The bigger legacy you leave means the more value you have created as a leader, which means more money in your pocket. And I want you all making as much money as possible. Okay. So that's really it. And before I take any questions, I'm just going to share with you, as I promised, how coaching is going to help you implement this goal. Because it's one thing, oh, I have an itch. It's one thing to develop the plan, because we can all make a list and put it on our calendar, but it's another thing to manage your mind and your emotions as you're executing the plan. So what coaching is going to do, it's going to talk you through that plan to ensure that even when you get sidetracked, because you will, because you're a human being, we'll get you back on track. So the Empowered Principal Coaching Program is how you stay on track with this, how you allow the hiccups without making it mean something about you. Because when you fail at something, the brain wants to say, it's all your fault. You can't keep up. You can't manage the plan. Something's wrong with you. You're not cut out to be a school leader. You're not doing it right. Plan, or you blame the plan. So somebody gets blamed. Either you blame yourself, you blame other people, or you blame the plan. None of those are the problem. There isn't even a problem. It's just called being human and being a school leader, right? So coaching is what makes this 3-month plan so successful. Through the weekly calls, we're going to solve all of your problems in real time. That's what the calls are about. You remain clear and focused on your primary goal. I'm going to make those adjustments to your schedule without changing the goal. Because what happens is sometimes we're like, oh, I'm not going to reach the goal. I'll just change the goal. We just make adjustments to the plan, not the goal. And here's the thing, here's the secret sauce of all of this. The reason this works is because emotions are what drive actions, and actions are what create results. So we focus on the energy, which are emotions, right? Emotions are just a vibration in your body. We focus on what energetic state, what emotional state you're in that's influencing how you're showing up. Because you can go through the motions of this plan. You can fill out every last question and piece of paper and fill it all out and still not get the results. And how is that possible? If actions create results, what's the difference between somebody who fills this out and makes it work and somebody who doesn't? It's the thoughts and the emotions and the energy behind which you're taking this plan into action. It has to be intentional. It has to be mindful. It has to be reflective. And it has to not mean something about you when you fail, because you will fail. So for those of you who are interested and you want more support, I'm just going to quickly tell you about the Empowered Principal Coaching Program, which is my one-on-one coaching program for school leaders. It's very personalized. It's a one-on-one 30-minute weekly call where we get to jump on the phone together, and we're just going to solve all your problems in real time so that you don't get off track and that the plan works. Here's why this works. I have curated this program over the last 5 years to ensure success. There is nobody who fails in this program. And here's why. You get private, confidential one-on-one sessions. And the reason I design it this way is that you need to be able to speak frankly, honestly, and openly. You need to be honest with yourself and be able to communicate honestly with somebody else who's not a member of your district, who doesn't know anybody you work with, who you can talk through. Because a lot of times what stops us in our tracks is our interactions with other people, how we're feeling about other people, how other people have impacted us, our thoughts and our feelings about what's going on with us or with them. So I'm going to teach you all kinds of strategies that are going to help you stay on track. The other reason that this program is so perfect for school leaders is that it's a very isolated job. You're very isolated in this position. I was so lonely and I was so afraid to ask for help or to let people know I didn't know what I was doing, because I was told fake it till you make it. So I just pretended, but I was miserable because I was alone and I was afraid and I didn't have anybody to talk to. This program, you have somebody in your corner for the entire year, every step of the way, somebody you can trust, somebody you can laugh with, somebody you can cry with, somebody you can tell all of your stories to. and help you solve those problems so you're not suffering alone and in silence, okay? You have somebody to process the challenges. This job is hard. It's insane what you're required to do. So we're going to process the challenges and the failures, but we're also going to be very intentional about celebrating the wins. All those little wins along the way, we're going to find the nugget of joy in the job and make sure that we celebrate that, okay? Coaching is going to allow you to anticipate the obstacles in advance, which is what this whole program is about, and handle those unexpected situations. There are things you can't anticipate. That's okay. That's not a problem. When something throws you off, we get on the phone and we talk it through, okay? That helps you stay more aligned to your leadership values, to your leadership vision, and to the priorities that you've set for yourself, which means your goals get achieved more quickly. So you embody and become the person who is the empowered leader, right? That's what this whole program is about. That's the point of this, is to empower you and to remind you, you have everything it takes, okay? You're going to learn how to handle new situations, how to be a first-year leader, how to be a 10-year veteran. Either way, the goal is to believe that you can handle anything that comes your way, to stay prioritized and focused, to maximize your top resources and use those resources as a leverage to maximize your value and extend that value out to maximize your teacher's potential, your students' potential, family support, district level support, all of it. The more valuable you become, that radiates to everyone around you. It's a win-win-win. You win, students win, staff wins, families win, your district wins. There's nothing that doesn't win when you maximize your top resources and become a very creative and authentic, I call it, cultivating your culture, a collaborative culture. You have to build that culture based on emotion, because culture is how people feel about who they are and how they work and their relationship with other people at work. Building that connection and that foundation that allows people to be authentic to who they are, to be the best versions of themselves as teachers, and to empower them to trust themselves and the process, and to give them permission to try and fail, to be learners, to truly be lifelong learners. We're going to navigate difficult people. I know that's inevitable, that there are challenging people along the way and challenging conversations. That isn't a problem when you have a coach to talk through and to create a plan for that conversation when it comes up and when it's needed, okay? Get you out of hustle mode, which creates sustainability. Sustainability is the gold star standard here, because if you are sustainable, you're not going to burn out. You're going to have much more fun in your professional life and in your personal life, okay? So with that, it's really simple, easy, and doable. There's no prep on your part. Coaching's conducted over the phone. You don't even have to be Zoom ready, and it's only 30 minutes a week. So you have the time, okay? And if you are a principal who wants to get started with this coaching support with me, who's an expert in school leadership and life and leadership coaching, and you want to really maximize your time efficiency and get the most done in the least amount of time, which is what we talked about for the last hour here, now is the time to sign up for coaching. So if you are interested in learning more, go to my website and schedule a consult. You can do that right now, or you can do it tonight. Schedule a consult. Basically what we do on the call is I'm just going to listen. I want to learn about your specific situation, where you're at and where you want to be, the struggles in your way, and how I can help you. We're going to see if we're a fit to work together. And then as soon as we say yes, we're going to get started coaching, and you'll have access to all of the tools that I have available to you, which is a ton. I have so many resources for school leaders because I've been working on them for the last 5 years. So I'm going to pop open the Q&A. And now, if you have any questions, type them in. I will coach you. I can bring you on. If you have questions, I looked in the chat. If not, class will be dismissed. You will have access to this replay. In about a half an hour, you're going to receive an email with additional resources for you to tap into. So a couple of things to keep in mind. Sign up for the Empowered Principal email list because that's where all of my content goes. You'll get first dibs at everything that I offer, early access. The Empowered Principal Facebook group is a group where I do pop-up coaching sessions. I do pose a question, pose a problem, and I answer it in there. You can have access to that. The podcast, the Empowered Principal podcast, is available to you. You're going to receive a PDF copy of my first book, The Empowered Principal, and access to one of my videos that I created for clients on how to set up a successful teacher evaluation process for the upcoming school year. Okay. So with that, I wish you well. Congratulations on the start of a new year. Please reach out if you would like additional support. My love goes out to all of you. Enjoy the rest of your summer. Have an amazing rest of your week, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take good care. Bye.